Barack Obama, Josh Earnest, James S. Brady. Press briefing room, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Democratic National Committee. Press briefing by Press Secretary Josh Earnest, 7/25/16. Thanks, Josh. Let's start with the pandemonium in Philadelphia. Laughter. Does the president feel that what we're seeing the last couple days in the party hurts the party's unity heading into the general? Does he think the emails show favoritism by the DNC towards Clinton during the primary? And does he have any thoughts on who should be the next leader of the Democratic Party? Well, Josh, he's obviously, let me start it this way. There are plenty of people who are in Philadelphia who can speak to the current state of our party and the current efforts to organize our party for success in the general election, and I'll let them speak to that. There are also a variety of ways to measure that. One measure that I think is relevant is the crowd reaction when the First Lady of the United States speaks tonight. And I do feel confident that when Mrs. Obama walks out on stage, that everybody in the crowd is going to be on their feet applauding. That, I think, is a strong indication of their strong support for the First Lady and the deep admiration and respect that they have for her. She's also going to be giving voice to the kinds of values and priorities that this administration has been fighting for 7.5 years now. And there is strong support all across the Democratic Party for the agenda that President Obama has pursued and the vigor with which he has pursued it. As it relates to the situation at the president has been clear about a couple of things. The first is he deeply appreciates what Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz has done during her 5-year-plus tenure at the Democratic National Committee. She took the helm at the DNC at a critically important time in President Obama's career. She had to, on a pretty short turnaround, work to prepare the DNC for the general election in 2012. And obviously the president won that re-election campaign with more than 50% of the vote. He's the first president since Eisenhower to both be elected and re-elected with more than 50% of the vote. And that certainly speaks to some of Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz's skills because the apparatus at the DNC was an important part of that effort. So that's the first thing. And I think the president conveyed that appreciation in the context of the statement that we issued last night. What's also true, and what's been true for some time, is that the president believes that the leadership at the DNC is something that should be determined by the party nominee. The ability of the party apparatus and the Democratic nominee's campaign working effectively together will be important to our success in the fall. And so as the leader of the party, that's the president's interest. So he's long said that it's the party nominee that should make the decisions about the leadership of the DNC. And he certainly has been unequivocal in his support for Secretary Clinton, the presumptive nominee, and her ability to make that decision. Does he think Wasserman Schultz was fair to Sanders in the primary? Mr. Earnest. Listen, I'm not going to get into the content of the email. Obviously, there are plenty of people with plenty of opinions about that, and I know that Senator Sanders himself spoke to this a little bit yesterday, and certainly in those comments he indicated his unwavering support for Secretary Clinton. Turning to the investigation into this hack that the FBI is now leading after the Sony hack, you were all relatively quick to point the finger at North Korea. Are you prepared at this point to say anything about whether Russia was involved in this hack and whether it may have been an attempt by a foreign state to try and sway the election towards Donald Trump? Mr. Earnest. At this point, Josh, let's go back to the Sony situation back in late 2014. There was a cop. Josh, I mean the thing that's different is it wouldn't be unprecedented for Russia to hack the administration. They recently have hacked and classified systems at State and the White House, and that's been acknowledged. When it comes to this particular thing, though, this seems a different level to be directly interfering in an election. This is something that Russia does in its own backyard, meddling in other states. To do it here in the States would make this seem to be a whole other level of attack. Can you explain how you're thinking of this? Mr. Earnest. I actually don't believe, at least from here, we have been direct about ascribing any attribution for the other breaches that you mentioned, including at the State Department and here at the White House. That's not because we don't take those breaches seriously. I assure you that we do. And those breaches have been thoroughly investigated, and there are a number of steps that have been taken to prevent future breaches of that sort. So this is something that we're vigilant about and will be moving forward. We take those matters quite seriously, and the fact that I'm unwilling to talk in much detail about this situation is not an indication that somehow the administration or our national security agencies take this lightly. In fact, I think it might be an indication of just how seriously we treat this matter that I don't want to say something that could, as a representative of the White House and as a spokesperson for the president, that would make this investigation even more complicated than it already is. So that's why I'm being a little circumspect. And I would acknowledge that fact on the front end. One more question. It appears that the last hospitals remaining in Aleppo, Syria have been destroyed by the Syrian Air Force with the backing of the Russians, according to US-backed Syrian opposition. There's claims of 400,000 civilians in immediate risk and in need of aid. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, like, share and subscribe our channel.